All right. Cindy, can you hear me all right?
I sure can.
Awesome.
Where's Jan?
It looks like we might have lost Jan. She was
Where'd she
on.
go?
I'm not sure. Well, we'll get started. We'll try to reconnect with Jan and see if we can't get her on here. But in the meantime, hello, everyone. My name is Blair Flickinger. I'm tuning in here from the Berkey headquarters in downtown Hayward, Wisconsin. It was snowing a little bit, wet snow on my way in, but it is starting to get a little more white around here. And to kick things off, we're getting into ski training season. If you haven't already started with dryland training, I know everybody's getting excited, and we just wanted to get rolling with some live Q&A videos here on Facebook, and I'm really pleased to have Cindy Swift joining us tonight. Cindy's a co-owner of Riverbrook Ski and Bike right here, kind of kitty corner from the Berkey headquarters. We like to do some lunchtime shopping trips from time to time to go check out the gear that Cindy and the team have in there. Oh, it looks like we've got Jan back in here. Let me pull her in.
There she is.
And then we've got Jan Gunther joining us. Jan is the owner and operator of Gear West, and both of these women have been in this ski industry for 30 or more years. They have a lot of experience personally. I would love to just give some brief introductions and let them tell you a little more about themselves, their background, and kind of what gives them the credentials to be sharing this information with all of you tonight. Cindy, I'll let you get started. You have a pretty interesting story you shared with me earlier this week about how you got introduced to skiing. It was a little bit of a trial by fire. Do you want to tell our viewers a bit about that?
Well, just to give some of you some incentive, I tagged along on a trip over to some World Loppet races in Scandinavia because I've met these adventurous people that were going over there to do a race. And they decided to tell me to join in. So I did not know how to ski, but I entered the 75K Finlandia by classic ski style and got that done. And they said, well, if you did that, then you'll be able to get through the 90K next weekend because it's flat. So that was how I started skiing. Jan's been over there as well and done some of those races. It is really a phenomenal experience to be around all those skiers, including the Berg.
It's a great way to travel.
It is. It truly is.
Well, Cindy and I met because we're both from the Chicago area originally, and both of us didn't grow up with a lot of snow skiing experience. I certainly didn't. I fell into skiing. I learned on the side of a highway when the Chicago suburbs received a little bit more snow than they do now. And I just sort of taught myself skating. And I can say at one time I was so slow that my first Mora Vasaloppet in Traverse City, the lake melted before I finished the 52K, and I had to get bussed for the final 10K. So, we all start from the very beginning, and by just, I think, sheer determination or love for the sport, we figure it out. And that's both what Cindy and I have done.
We have.
Absolutely. Well, I'm grateful that both of you were willing to hop on here tonight and share some of what you've learned along the way. We're kind of starting from the ground up with this series of live videos, and looking at what you wear for skiing is very important. As someone who has grown up in Wisconsin, grew up around cross-country skiing, it can kind of make or break your experience. You can have a really great day out, even if the conditions aren't fantastic, if you're geared up and ready to go. Or it could be a beautiful day and you're not dressed right and it is no fun at all. So that's really why we wanted to have you two on to talk about some of the different things you have in your shops, and really just helping folks get a grasp on whether they're new skiers or they've been doing it a long time and the technology has changed, what they can do to set themselves up for success. And we're, again, if any of our viewers out there, if you have specific questions around apparel and gear, please put those in the comments. We do have a few questions just to kind of prime the pump and get the conversation going. And whoever wants to jump in and answer this first question can go ahead. Just a really general, is it better to dress too warm or too cold when you're going out cross country skiing? What are some thoughts there?
We'll change up. Cindy, do you want this one? And I'll get the next question.
Sure. We've all made both of those mistakes. I guess that's a tough one. It kind of just depends on you. But I would say overdressing is rather chronic for many people. So we always start with base layers and then build upon that. I'd say underdressing can be very critical. So you can really go hypothermic. Wouldn't you agree, Jan? I mean, we've all been out there when I've probably worn a little too light of an outfit and you go hard, but you definitely feel the cold.
I think the
You
answer
can always take layers off.
Yeah, I think the answer is dressing correctly, because
Yeah.
if you dress warmly, let's say, oh, it's freezing cold out, I'll throw on a puffy jacket, then that type of materials will not breathe, and you'll just have sweat running down your back and you'll be completely soaked. And or if you don't have the correct base layers, you have some cheap base layers or the kind that sort of masquerade as base layers. Even silk is more of a layering product, but not necessarily a wicking product. That will then not transfer the moisture to another outer layer. And if your outer layer doesn't breathe, you really have an issue that can lead to hypothermia, even though you started to overdress initially. The correct layers will allow moisture to escape if you overdress. That's what it.
So in a perfect world, let's say it's a fairly chilly ski day, what would those correct layers look like? What types of materials do you recommend? Could you dive in a little deeper to that?
I'll take the first.
Well, go ahead. No,
I'll
go
take
ahead.
the first layer. And everything tries to be like wool. And some people don't like wool. You might have polyester mix, but what it does is allow the moisture to transfer through. It has the ability or the design of the fabric to pick up your sweat and to transfer it to an outer layer. And it has, usually is hollow filled fabric or the type of a material that does not hold moisture. So that would be your first layer. You don't want it loose. You need to have something that hollow fabric actually will hold the warm air that you generate when you exercise. So it does two things: transfers moisture, holds the warm air that you generate, and it's snug fitting to your body. And it's most important on the top. The pants, obviously, you don't sweat near as much on your lower half, but it will again hold the warm air that when you exercise hard, it will keep that next to your body and sort of in a way envelop you and keep you warmer than you might otherwise be if you used an incorrect base layer or something like cotton. So that would be your first layer, and you can go from there, Cindy.
I guess then what I would say, Blair, is first you need to address what is your intent when you go ski. A lot of us will dress to go to the trailhead, hop out of the car, go hard, and then turn around, come back just as hard, hop in the car, and go home. So you better be ready for intensity and a lot of sweat, and you want all those proper layers Jan's talking about. But if you're going to approach it more casually and you plan on stopping and talking and hanging out with some friends or something like that, you definitely have to dress warmer. I've been known to leave layers hanging in the trees and I come back for them later hoping that they're still there. Skiers are pretty honest that way. So I would say dress for what you think you're going to do that day. Are you planning on nonstop intensity, or are you going out for a casual ski? Are you with friends? Will you be conversational, or will you be going hard? And then you wear the appropriate layers that Jan's talking about. You start out a little cold and you warm up.
Mm-hmm.
And those layers can be, you know, a vest. There's some really smart ways to dress that keep you warm without, again, having so many different types of fabrics that you can't even move. So if you use a quality base layer, you can use a lightweight vest that's snug fitting that can keep the core body warm. And then you can, you know, wear a breathable jacket, which has the allowance to uh, transfer moisture through the back usually, and the front is wind front. You know, we talk a lot about the tops. You obviously what you wear in your hands. I certainly have friends that either have freezing cold feet or freezing cold hands, and that's almost a subject in itself. So we can dive into that because it's not fun when one of those pieces
No,
freeze.
it's definitely not. Well, Jan and I just sat through the Swix presentation of clothing, so I feel like I have all the layers front and center. There are so many levels of clothing out there, so we both carry all of those layers that are meant for either a more casual approaching skier, something thicker, and you know, some of us call it like the dog walker. Well, it's that thick that you would also feel like it's appropriate to walk your dog, and you probably could ski in it and you wouldn't have to wear long underwear. But it's still a moisture wicking performance piece. And then you get that middle type of pant that offers windbreak, moisture wicking, and it's wind and waterproof on the front and then light in the back. And then you've got your racing suit, kind of tight fitting apparel that is meant for more intensity. And the same thing goes with the top. But if you want to go hard, you certainly don't want to overdress on top with some heavier jacket or just end up wringing wet. And then, like Jan said, you end up hypothermic because you're wringing wet. It's all about moisture management.
Moisture management. Write that in the comments. Oh, so true. So it sounds like you said, Jan, most things are trying to mimic wool. If people aren't wearing wool, what are kind of the next best materials to be looking for? Like you said, some people are very sensitive. Is there something in particular you would recommend?
Well, first thing I will say about wool, the quality of the wool that's out now, the merino wool, is really treated in such a way that I would suggest that many people who think that they don't find a stiffer type of wool comfortable or itchy, the merino wool is so nice. And there are also different amounts of wool in some of the fabrics. So you might, you know, choose a fabric that has polyester and wool mix, and you've got a nice blend of a warm fabric that will also transfer moisture. But otherwise, they're just various types of polyester. And but what they are is, like I'd say, sort of gradiated. They might look like they have a little loft or a little build a channel in, let's just say, we'll take the Swix lightweight performance base layer. It has channeling in it. So what that is not so next to skin. What the channeling does is actually, again, hold the warm air that you generate next to your skin, and the fabric itself doesn't, you know, it sort of transfers the moisture to the next layer. So I find that most polyesters that have some sort of ability to a different heights, I would say, in the fabric, channeling or I don't know if I know the word. Some of the Patagonia fabrics have the different lofts, but it's a lofty fabric that does what we need it to do, like wool.
Awesome. And we did have a question. I'm going to show it up here on the screen from our friend Carl Kozak. So a lot of shops are carrying heated gloves these days. Do they work? Are they comfortable? Do they have the moisture wicking that you're talking about? Battery life? Cindy, do you want to tackle that one?
I don't have any experience with them working for intensity or moisture wicking, only for standing, spectating, that kind of thing. I have limited experience with it, to be honest. How about you, Jan?
We sell them for the Alpine store, but nothing for the Nordic. And I wouldn't really call moisture wicking in your gloves fabric. And I think there's a lot of mittens. A lot of people have this idea that you can't really race or ski hard with mittens. And I can tell you, I've probably done almost every race of mine in mittens. And there are some pretty warm mittens and or hand, liners that you can use that can do a pretty good job of keeping those hands warm. I have a big problem with it. So electric, I just don't think they'll work for you. Okay. Try mittens, try any sort of hand warmers inside the mittens. Sometimes that almost can be too warm and create sweating, so you have to be worried, careful about that. But there's a lot of different types of mittens that will work in your cross-country ski grips or straps and of different thicknesses.
Yeah. And to that point, because I see we have another question, but I will say age plays a factor in cold. And going back to the wool, I guess I've never been a person that could tolerate wool against my skin. So now I do wool as a mid layer. So that's worked well for me to keep me. It's a very thin wool and it doesn't have to be next to my skin. And then now there are wool mitten liners and glove liners, and those thin merino wool liners have started to work very well for me inside mittens. And if I have to pop a hand warmer in there for a little while, I do, and then I take it out so I don't get incredibly sweaty. Does that make sense? That's kind of our go-to for giving customers advice on really cold hands. Okay, I see another question.
Yeah, I'll put this one up here. Yeah, this one is from Kevin about boots. So race boots don't offer much insulation. Any tricks for keeping the toes from frostbite on cold race days?
Well,
always tricky.
Yeah, there's thermal boot covers are really, to me, the best way to go. There are some thermal socks that do work. I have not used them, but I know many people that have thermal socks. Again, you can usually find them at Alpine stores. If I don't know, maybe Cindy does carry them. We put ours in the Alpine store, but so they will work. My feet aren't that bad, but over boots and or if you can put your toe heater between your sock and your boot if it gets enough air. If not, some people put toe heaters between their overboot and their boot. What do you use, Cindy?
Yeah, I'd say I don't like racing in boot covers, but nobody wants super cold feet. A lot of times when you try to put that toe warmer in there, you can choke it out. So, I've had numb feet to Timber Trail before, and that's not fun. I would say the things that I've learned over time, and Jan, you can chime in here, make sure you have warm, dry boots to put on and that your feet are not overheated or sweaty before like I don't drive in my ski boots. And when I don't want to get my feet sweaty by driving because heat goes directly on them. So any trick you can think of to not have any moisture before you get out there. And then the boot covers, I think, are really the problem solver in our experience.
Yeah, and a good wool sock. But having two socks these days, that's sort of from years ago when the socks weren't as good. I think you're better off just having one quality sock and making sure your feet don't sweat in a variety of different ways.
Experiment. Yes, experiment.
But there are heated footbeds and or heated socks that I have seen people use.
Nice. And I know it's easy to think, you kind of alluded to it there, Jan, 2 pairs of socks or a thicker sock is going to keep my foot warmer, but running into issues with fit. Do you have a general rule of thumb for just the fit of your boot to kind of keep that circulation without being too loosey-goosey or too so tight that it's cutting off the circulation?
I think you get the fit of the boot to best fit your foot. I mean, you don't try to fit it to make your foot warmer or cooler or whatever. The fit has to be snug. You want to, I always say as snug as it can be without hurting your feet. You don't build your fit of your boot around 2 pair of socks. You want one decent pair of socks, and you just put in the after products to make it work for you.
I think we all develop kind of a uniform that you put on for certain temperatures, and you experiment with that looped wool sock. I know we happen to carry Fitz socks. You know, Jan, you probably carry Fitz Smart Wool. There's a lot of socks out there, but there are certain ones that certainly feel warmer, and there are so many thicknesses. But I think what I see people err on is trying to fit too much sock in a boot, and then you're literally choking your foot.
Mm-hmm.
You're keeping it cold, and there needs to be air to breathe around it. So try not to stuff too much in there and warm up.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think those were some good tips too about, keeping things dry and warm. I know at least at our Berkey events, like at Berkey Week, you can get in that warming tent, and if you can find a spot by one of the heaters to keep your boots dry and warm, that's a great option. I know I personally do the same thing, Cindy. I bring a different pair of socks that I put on in that warming tent. I wait kind of till the last minute to get my socks and boots on, and that's when I walk out to the start line. So those are great tips. Let's see. Do you guys have any kind of frequently asked questions you get from maybe a new skier coming into one of your shops about kind of gearing up, or more? I kind of like to hear both sides, newer person and maybe a more seasoned racer. Maybe we have some racers watching that are a little more on that elite side. Recommendations for both ends of the spectrum.
Cindy, you can go. If you want to take touring, I'll take.
Touring?
Yeah, go. Beginning.
Are we talking apparel, Blair?
Yeah. If someone comes into your shop, maybe they're coming in to get outfitted because it's their first weekend in Hayward and they want to hit the Berkey Trail. And where would you start?
It's a wonderful thing. It's always so much fun to meet that person. I would say the first thing we do is what Jan and I have talked about is we definitely talk about the base layer first. We start there, and you decide whether you're a wool or a synthetic person, and then you go by fit, and then you look at, it just depends. Again, we talk to people about how hard you want to go and be prepared for anything. So we talk about base layer, mid layer, and outer layer, and then you're pretty much prepared for anything. So you can eliminate that mid layer, which is kind of a brushed shirt that adds another layer of something to give you more insulation between your base layer and your jacket. And then that mid layer can also be dual purpose and be worn against the skin as a little bit heavier shirt. And then you can put on your outer layer jacket. And then, of course, if it's warm enough, you just do the base layer and the jacket. And then sometimes you just do base layer and vest, and gone are the days for me where I'm going to wear a Lycra suit. Sorry, that ship has sailed.
Yeah, I guess maybe that would be a good lead into for you, Jan. Like, at what point, would you recommend someone's, out, they've done some racing or they've dabbled in racing, they're considering, like me personally, I have pants, I have a jacket, I kind of have that system Cindy just set up. At what point does someone kind of take the plunge and go to a race suit? What are the benefits of that? What are the drawbacks if someone's considering making that switch?
Well, gosh, it's 63. I guess I still put on that Lycra suit sometimes, but
you can.
Yeah, because I'm just trying to advertise the store. There's a lot of tricks, I think, to trying to stay warm if you put on Lycra. And when would you put on Lycra is two different questions. Reasons why you probably wear a Lycra suit is really it does allow breathability and it allows complete comfort without chafing and great freedom of movement. Actually, we just sold
full range of motion.
Yeah, we just sold a Lycra suit to a runner who's going to the Arctic Circle for some ultra 170-mile run race, and he wanted a Lycra suit. So it doesn't chafe, and it's comfortable. You don't think about it; you think about other things. So I think the moment that people want a lot of comfort in their, in their movement, like lycra suits are great. And I see a lot of people training in them too. I probably don't train in them as much because I don't think there's many options for warmth. But given the fact that I like to stay warm as well, I think there's ways of layering a lycra suit. I know I have no problem with wool. So I usually use a thin, just sort of a tank top, wool tank top underneath as a first layer. Then I will take a base layer. Then I will probably put on a lycra suit, and then I might even have a vest if I know it's going to be -10 the entire race. So I'll have many layers on my core, but I'll still have freedom of movement in my arms. Or there are base layers that have a wind front built on it, which is super nice. And then I still might use a tank top that's a very thin wool. So I definitely layer my core in many ways and still have a lycra suit on. And or if it's really cold as well, I learned my lesson by wearing a lycra suit either without a wind front base layer, or sometimes it's just worthwhile to put a pair of flexible wind pants on in addition to the suit, because you can't. I think there's a problem if it's really cold wearing something that does not stop the wind on the front of your thighs and going down the hills. It can just strip you of all the strength and you're just left pretty freezing cold. So I definitely am a big advocate for a wind layer, a base layer many times when you wear a lycra suit.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good point, Jan. The fabrics are so sophisticated now, and just to address the lycra suit, Blair, at one point in time, I didn't know you would wear anything else, right? It was just the uniform, and it's what gets you in the mood, and it's what is appropriate for cross-country skiing. Personally, I just now do the open event, and I just wear my black pants and my slicks jacket, and off we go. But to Jan's point, a lot of women get really cold in the thighs. Now, men will probably get cold as well, but I will admit they are probably wearing what's called a wind brief, which is protection in the front and then not so much in the back. But women also can wear a wind brief, and it's built for us because our thighs and our buns get really cold. Mm-hmm. So that's just one additional layer that you can put on with that base layer. It can kind of go wind layer. I don't know, you can help me out here, Jan, but you wear these little shorts. Mm-hmm. So that gives you the first layer, and then your second layer would be your long underwear, and then your third layer is either lycra or a wind pant of some kind. But a lot of people battle with cold, so the more layers, the better.
Yeah, I just don't think women should pay attention to their significant others and try to dress like them or listen to them. Usually we need a little bit more layering.
Yeah, which if you want to address the base layer, the base layer sports bra, oh my gosh, that's where you're getting the coldest because you just get wet and icy. So definitely that layer needs to be wicking. So the first thing that a woman is wearing is that sports bra, and then they put on the underwear. And a couple of the sports bras that we carry actually have wool. Mm-hmm. So you can be wearing that very first layer with some wool in it so that you don't freeze when you're coming down from the fire tower with all that cold wind. Sometimes you're so
really
wet,
selling this race for us, Cindy. Come on. It's so fun to come down from the fire tower. Oh, right? Goodness. No, that's important though, because sports bras, I mean, if you walk into a general department store these days, 95% of them or 99% of them are probably a synthetic fabric. So really looking for those specialty pieces that are going to be tailored for being out in the cold is important, and not something you want to overlook as a female skier. All right, we did have a good question come in here from Maria. So any tips for diabetics trying to keep medical devices warm and functioning while outside? Maybe some accessories or things that could help folks in that situation.
Oh, that's a good one.
I would say wind protection. Somehow you'd have to keep that. Not only would you want it insulated, but you definitely need the wind protection, would probably be something that I would be most concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Are any of, I know, like, I'm thinking of, and this was another question I was going to pitch your way, maybe it ties in, but, you know, backpacks, fanny packs, different things that are usually meant for hydration and, you know, nutrition along the way. Are any of those, do they have any insulated pockets or things that might give that little extra protection?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, it's unfortunate that the ski suit business or industry has sort of been destroyed by, and the reason why I say destroyed by just sublimated suits that certain teams and groups put together. What that means is, if I carry some interesting ski suits that actually are sort of backcountry mountaineering suits, they have neat little pockets
Mm,
um, that the racers when used for stashing away their food. I've always wanted to carry them, but they're pretty expensive, and most people have their team ski suits. But I feel sewing in something in a zipper ski suit where you can keep it warm, the food warm on your body, is so much better than the variety of alternatives that people carry their. You know, they sometimes I see people carrying food and bracelets or necklaces
mm,
where they take off, you know, that where they eat the chews that are they've string on the piece of string, or you know, you're trying to get your goo that's stapled onto your bib. I find all of them fairly hard to eat.
They're all awkward.
I just stop at food stations. Uh, having food in a hydration pack, I think is, or drink, especially if you can just get the drink that has calories, that's really just as helpful. But it to keep it not from freezing is quite difficult. You really have to tuck it under somewhere warm, and it cannot be exposed to, I think, any temperatures below about 25. Otherwise, you're
I,
constantly fighting it.
I was going to add to something there, Jan. You mentioned carrying things. So one of the things I learned is by trial and errors, I carry my own water pack with another area that keeps accessories and things. And early on in some of those very long races, and again, you should look at how long your event is going to be and what you think you should carry. But what saved me once was when I did that Swedish Vasaloppet 90K. It happened to be extremely cold that day, like way below zero. And someone told me to carry a spare pair of gloves. That saved my hands, because I had the opportunity to put on dry gloves at like 45K, because I was only halfway. I was a novice, you know. So I was thinking, wow, you know, holy cow, I'm so glad I had those. So if I was ever to do anything like that, I would say to people, bring spare gloves or a liner. And then now they have all these easy to carry hand warmers, toe warmers. You might as well carry anything that you can if you're going to go out for an adventure on skis, or if you think you're going to be out there for a while.
awesome. And we did thank you guys for those thoughts. I know it's not an easy question or an easy situation as a diabetic, being out there on long races and trying to keep equipment and food and different things. So thank you for that question, Maria. Hopefully that provided some insight. And I know we actually have a long time Berkey skier who has opted to start doing the open track, which is a lot smaller crowds, maybe more access to some of the aid stations in the event that they, you know, needed assistance. So that's something that for them, they felt just much safer out on the trail, knowing that they'd have a little better access to things if they needed it in a medical emergency. So just food for thought there. We did have a follow-up question regarding winter sports bras. Are there any particular brands or ones that you guys would recommend? Maybe ones you carry in your store or ones you've had good reviews on, I guess.
Well, I see it was Michelle, who I know. Hi, Michelle, asking the question about the sports bra. Jan, the one that comes to mind for me was the one that has the wool lining. It's called the Caritro Froya. I think it's Froya. That's a Norwegian name. I apologize if I slaughtered it. That's the one that has a thin wool lining inside it. So that was the one I recommend. But at least all of the brands that we carry makes a sports bra, and Jan carries a lot of the same stuff. They're all wicking. It's just going to be a matter of what fits right. But the only one I knew that had any wool in it, and Jan, you can tell me if you know of another one I'm not aware.
Smartwool has a bra.
Smartwool. There you go. There you go.
So those are the only two I know, the Caritro and the Smartwool.
And it's the most sensitive layer. So if you can't wear the wool, then you just have to go with synthetic. And, I just think when you get done, change right away.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, we're coming up on 40 minutes here. Do you imparting?
My favorite item that's changed my life in terms of freezing my earlobes, and now there's a million of them out there, are buffs. I wear buffs.
Oh, let's talk about the buff.
And you don't have to take off your earrings anymore. So you just
Thank you, Jan.
Yeah, I like taking the earrings, and you just pull the buff right over your head. And before that, my earlobes would always freeze, or you have to put your earrings somewhere and then you lose them. I think buffs are the greatest thing ever.
Mm-hmm. I do too.
And for like the front of your neck. Oh,
yeah, they're awesome. They're very.
We all wear them now. It's the best layer that was ever invented for us, because your neck is what gets so cold, and then sometimes you have to pull it up over your nose.
But then you can pull it down. It's not like a lava that
you can wear it over the top of your hat. You can wear it under your hat.
You can wear it as a hat, as a headband.
As a hat, as a headband.
Yeah.
If you're really tiny, maybe as a or a tube top. I don't know.
Yeah. And the only thing other than I'm a old contact wearer who finally now got LASIK, but if you have contacts, just beware, or sensitive eyes. The big ugly sort of goggles, the breathable goggles, they're not alpine goggles, but they're face masks for cross-country skiing, are so useful for longer ski races where the wind could whip right through your normal glasses. So
Blair, let's talk about that for just a second before we wrap up. Both the Tifosi, Blizz, all these glasses we actually call them, they look more like a windshield now. Mm-hmm. And so we're talking about trying not to freeze your corneas. I've done it twice.
I've done it too.
It's so unfun. I mean, you feel like you've got gravel under your eyelids when you freeze your corneas. So the wind is what does that. So we tend to wear glasses that are a little bigger, that act like a windshield, and we all carry them now. They definitely look bigger, but they are so worthwhile for your eyes.
Yep.
And another tip came in here from your friend Michelle. Says she uses the ear bags. They just go under. And I think going back to the layering, you can wear them on their own, wear them under a headband, offers that little extra heat when needed, or independently it sounds like ski's pretty warm. So to let that heat escape off the head and just keep the ears from freezing, that's a good
I haven't tried.
I know them, but I'm always losing one. So I gave up on them. They're not attached.
Got it.
Any other trade secrets, Cindy or Jan, that you guys use to stay warm or layering while you're out there on the trail?
Well, I will always add, you can dress smart, but you still have to look cute.
And there's a lot of cute stuff out there now.
Mhm.
Both of our
There's
stores
so
carry them.
many cute things out there now, and handsome things for the men that
Yeah.
are listening.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, before we go, I also wanted to just share. So both Jan and Cindy, their businesses, so Gear West and Riverbrook, have both partnered up with the American Birkebeiner Ski Foundation with our flagship event, the Ski to Ski, which is happening this January. And Riverbrook is the presenting sponsor for the 10K freestyle race, and Gear West is the presenting sponsor for the 30K skate only race. So we're really excited to be bringing that to you guys. I have a little slide here that just shows that's happening on the 28th. The camp is already full, but we do have the 3 different distances. So 10K freestyle, 20K classic, and that 30K skate. Really excited to have a women's only event. So from seasoned veterans who really want to get out there and push themselves against other women competitors, to first-time racers that are just looking for kind of a comfortable environment, really supportive and encouraging to get out there and try it. Possibly a training race if you're looking at doing the Berkey, Cordy, Prince Hoken, any of the above. So just want to say thank you to both of you for being supporters of that and really pushing us to add new offerings here at the Berkey for folks and especially women. And both of you, do you want to take a minute before we hop off and share? You both do women's clinics, ski clinics. Do you want to tell us a little bit about when those are happening and how folks could sign up if there's still space available?
We don't have any space available, but every year Jan and I put on a clinic the second weekend in December, and it filled up fast this year. But the next opportunity, well, you can always check in for us for 2023, but there's an organization called Ski and Tea that Jan and I will both be coaching, right, Jan? January, so it's New Year's Eve day. So that would be January 31st from 9 to 11 up at Double O. It's women's only, coached by women. And it's just a 2-hour session from 9 to 11, but it gives people an opportunity to at least get small group coaching at that point from women.
Yes.
Other than that.
And Rozzy, we are also sponsoring what's called Rozzy has a We Rise event, which is a women's coaching for those people, or teaching for those people who are in the Twin Cities. It's at Worth Park. It's on our website. I believe it's early second week, the week after our event in Hayward. So it's the third week in January, I believe. In December. So there are lots of women's events this year, and they are all pretty heavily attended. So it means that there's a lot of interest in women's skiing, and that's really cool.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thank you, both of you. Again,
Thank you.
Michelle mentioned you guys have been very instrumental in that movement and continue to just be leading the field, men, women, all around, supporting cross-country skiing and helping folks get out there and challenge themselves outside, which is what we're all about here at the Berkey. So thank you for being part of that. And
thank you, Blair.
Yeah, we'll let you guys go here. And just to let all of our viewers know, our next live Q&A, we're going to be teaming up with Pioneer Midwest. And they're the presenting sponsor of the Sealy Hills Classic, which is also happening in January. We're going to be talking with them about classic skiing, wax selection. Maybe you're thinking about crossing over or trying it for the first time. And we're going to get tips from their pros over at Pioneer Midwest. So hop on with us November 29th. That will be a lunchtime live Q&A. So you can grab your sandwich or soup and